This is my Prusa i3 printer, 3D printer. This is a Hicktop model, and I've had this for about 6 months. So I've done a lot of modifications to this, but it's basically, if you look at it, it looks much like a stock printer. I've had a lot of questions lately about, on this auto bed leveling model, how you go about setting the Z height and what you do with these screws. In theory, you don't have to set the bed leveling screws at all, but I go ahead and do that anyway. And right now I've purposely set this so that it's off, and I'm going to go ahead and tell it to, well, what I'll do here is I'm going to go over and show you what I'm doing on the screen. So this is Pronter Face, also known as Print Run, and this is a convenient way to control your printer. So I'll go ahead and say connect, and as you can see over here, it puts out some commands and talks to the printer and sets things up. And at this point then we can go ahead and say push this Z home here. I'm going to go from the screen here and show you I just did that, and you can kind of hear it probably, and then we'll go over here and look and see what it's doing. So if you watch, you can see the extruder go up and then back down, and I'll try and get close here and you can see, maybe you can't, but let me see if I can get the light down here. Yeah, there we go. So we're pretty far from the bed right now, so that's clearly too high, which that's a common problem with people trying to get their printer set up, is that the extruder's too high. So I have the auto bed leveling, which means that I have a inductive sensor here in the back. Let me go here. You can see my inductive sensor there, and I've also added a little screw on there so that I can move that thing up and down. So what we need to do is we need to go ahead and pull that sensor up a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to screw this in a little bit here, and then we'll go ahead and do another. I'll just set this down here, and then I'll do another home on the Z-axis. Now when you do a home from the front panel, it homes all the axes at the same time. You can't home just the Z-axis, but from Pronter Face you can do that. So let's go ahead and do that. Alright, now you can see it's quite a bit lower right now. The printer thinks that this is 0.5 millimeters, and so what we want to do is we want to get that a little bit closer, and then we'll do it again. Okay, now what we do is from Pronter Face we go ahead and we lower that. It's at 0.5 millimeters. Let's go ahead and lower it to 0.1. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, and you couldn't see me do anything there. But if we go up and we look at the panel on the printer, you can see that it says Z is plus 0.1 millimeters. So let's take a look and see what that looks like. That looks pretty close there. The way we tell if that's right or not is we go ahead and we grab a piece of paper. Let me do that. I'll pull back here and let you look at the printer again. So I got a piece of paper here, and we slide it underneath the extruder. Again, keep in mind that that's not 0.5 millimeters. We've lowered it to 0.1 millimeters, and it's still too loose. The way you tell if it's correct is when you slide it like this, you should feel just a tiny bit of drag. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach back here and I'm going to raise my inductive sensor just a little bit, which means it'll go closer to the bed when I do the auto home. Okay, so I autoed home. Now I'm at 0.5 millimeters. I need to lower it by 0.4 millimeters. I'll do 1, 2, 3, 4. So now the paper's still not rubbing on the extruder. It's too loose. I'm moving it in and out. So let's go ahead and crank that inductive sensor back up a little bit, and then I'm going to home it again. Again, I'm going to show you what I'm doing again over here. This is the home right here. That homes is the axis, and then I just hit this, which goes down, and I do it 4 times. 1, 2, 3. So at this point, we have the Z height set correctly, and as we slide a piece of paper underneath there, there's just a little bit of drag on there, which is what you want. This piece of paper is a 20-pound style paper, and it's about 0.1 millimeter thick. So again, when you home the Z-axis, it's 0.5 millimeters, and you have to lower it 4 millimeters to get that 0.1 millimeter. So now what we want to do is raise this up 1 millimeter. See if I can get in here where you can see it. So I raised it up 1 millimeter, and then you want to go over and pick 4 corners of your bed and then lower it back down by 1 millimeter. And then you check with the paper, and right now I don't feel very much drag there, so that needs to be raised just a little bit. So we'll pull this bed over here, and I'll raise that just a little bit by unscrewing that. Yeah, now I'm getting just a little bit of drag. So if we move to the front corner, really I should raise that back up, but I know my bed's pretty close here. And again, it needs to be raised just a little bit. And I can feel just a little bit of drag there. And then what we'll do is, because I'm not sure on the other side here, we don't want to drag that extruder across the bed, so we'll go ahead and raise it up 1 millimeter. And then we'll slide it over to the other side of the bed, lower it back by 1 millimeter. Oops, I'm not on there, sorry. And that needs maybe just a little bit more there, so we'll undo that just a bit there. It's very close. I got my screws really tight. Let me set this on there and see if I can do that. Okay, a little bit more. Okay, and then we'll check the back here. Looks like it needs a little bit too. Yeah, so there's a little bit of drag there. And you can see that the, maybe you can't see, let me see if I can get a better angle. But that piece of paper just barely slides there with just a little drag. I can feel it catching on that extruder, and that's what you want. So let's go back to the middle and recheck it. I'll raise it up 1 millimeter. I'll go back to the middle, and we'll verify that it's the same there. I'll just set this down here. Whoops. Okay, so lower back by 1 millimeter, and then we'll check the drag. And yep, there's a little bit of drag there. So we're all ready to print now. One other thing you ought to do before you even do your auto bed leveling, and especially if you just put your printer together, but it's good to check it once in a while, is to make sure both sides of your x-axis are at the same height. Now, I know some people measure right here to the bottom of the plastic, but what I like to do, which I think is more accurate, is I measure to the top of the rod here, and then I go down to the motor mount, which is a fairly level area, and you can see right here. So I'm on the top of the motor mount there, and on the top of the rod. These digital calipers are available at Harbor Freight, and they're pretty inexpensive. So my reading there is 4.851. I want to put that on metric. Let's do that. I'd rather have it be metric since this printer is all metric. Okay. It's kind of hard to do this with one hand. Normally I use 2 hands. Okay, so that's 123.55. So let's see if the other side's the same. I'm going to set the camera down here, and you know what, it's off by quite a bit, and I had a feeling that was true. So I'm going to do a motors off, and then I'm going to go ahead and lower this side by carefully turning the screw, and you need to do this slow so it doesn't the stepper motor acts like a little generator, and it'll actually make the other motor move with it by generating a little power. So we'll lower that just a little bit there. I don't know how mine got off because I just checked this not too long ago, but because I moved it for this video, it may have shifted. Okay, but this is hard to do with one hand. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and set this down, and then I'm going to go ahead and make the measurement. Okay, yeah, it's 123.76 on that side and 123.50. That's pretty good right there. I could lower just a hair, and I'm going to go ahead and check that again. Oops, I must have zeroed it. Okay, so let's try that again here. You probably can't see anything where I'm doing right now, but I'm checking this. Okay. Okay, so you get both sides so that it's the same, and then you do the bed leveling procedure. So this is kind of in reverse order, but I'm going to go ahead and put this together for you as a video. So let me go ahead and shut this off, and then we'll go ahead and finish. I'm going to re-bed level this, re-level the bed, and then the heater will be heated up, and we can go ahead and start doing some okay, here we are back. My bed's heated up now. I'm printing PLA, and I've got it heated up to 200 degrees for the extruder and 60 degrees for the bed. So let's go ahead and I've loaded into Cura the test cube, which I think a lot of people use that as a test thing. And then I have my Cura set up to use a Pronterface interface. So it looks similar to the full version here. So let's go ahead and, so it says operational. And I always like to set the temperature on here so that it goes to that temperature immediately without doing the extruder first and then the bed second. It'll do both of them at the same time if you do this. And then we go ahead and say print. And then let's go over here. We should get this thing kicking off almost immediately. Oh, I see we dropped a little bit in temperature, so we're at 197. As soon as it hits 200, then it'll kick off. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause this until it hits 200. Actually, it's there. It should go right now. You'll see the screen kind of flash a little bit when it hits, and it'll take off. There it goes. So what it's doing right now is it's going to the front corner there, and it's checking the Z height. And then it does it at 4 other points here. It'll go over to the next point. And it uses these measurements to calculate how much it needs to skew the print by to keep the print level. So if your bed's off a little bit, it actually adjusts the print to do that. So now it's going to go ahead and take off and print. You'll see a little bit of extrusion coming out of there. And I'm going to see if I can get real close here. It's going to be a little hard. But what you want to see on that is you want to see a small ribbon of plastic. Not a bead, but kind of a flat ribbon. Now what you see there that's kind of let loose is just the, they put a border around the print, and that border came off there a little bit. But you can see what's being laid down there is, let me see if I can get a little more light on this. Let's see here. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, so that gives you an idea there of what it should look like. I'll let it go for another minute or two. So that's bed leveling, Z-height adjustment, and our first print there. So I stopped the printer and then I shut the motors off, and this is the print. You can see there's a partial layer there where that diagonal is, but you can see it stuck down to the bed pretty well, and it looks pretty smooth there, and you can see that it's not squashed down or sitting up high. It's laying nice and flat on the bed. So that's what you want to see.